Dr. Alan Reeves stared at his computer screen in disbelief. The numbers weren't wrong. They couldn't be wrong. He had checked them 15 times already. The CERN particle accelerator was picking up energy signatures that shouldn't exist in our universe. "Susan, you need to see this," he called out to Commander Susan Blake, who had been stationed at the facility for the past month. The NATO officer looked up from her tablet and walked over, her boots clicking against the polished floor of the control room. "What am I looking at, Alan?" she asked, leaning over his shoulder to examine the screen full of data streams and fluctuating graphs. "Reality is breaking." He pointed to a particular set of readings that pulsed with an angry red color. "These energy signatures, they're coming from outside our dimension, and they're getting stronger." Commander Blake's expression hardened. She had been assigned to CERN after similar anomalies had been reported at particle accelerator facilities across the globe. Until now, they had all been false alarms or equipment malfunctions. This was different. "How sure are you?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Alan Reeves wasn't known for making mistakes. 100%. He pulled up another screen showing similar readings from facilities in Japan, China, and America. "It's happening everywhere. The barriers between dimensions are wearing thin, and something is pushing against them from the other side." The commander straightened up and pulled out her phone. "I need to make some calls. Don't share this with anyone else yet." Before she could dial, the lights in the control room flickered. A low hum filled the air, making their teeth vibrate. On every screen in the room, the readings spiked simultaneously. "That's not possible," Alan whispered, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "The accelerator is offline. We shouldn't be getting any readings at all." The hum grew louder, and the air in the center of the room began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. Both Alan and Susan stepped back as the shimmer took on a distinct shape, a perfect sphere of distorted space about 3 feet in diameter. "Security breach in the main control room." Susan barked into her radio. "I need a response team here now." The sphere pulsed, and a voice emerged from it. Not sound waves through air, but words that formed directly in their minds. "Your species has advanced faster than we anticipated," the voice said. "This is fortunate. You will need every advantage in the coming conflict." Dr. Peter Martinez burst into the room with 2 security guards, their weapons drawn. He froze at the sight of the floating sphere. "Don't shoot," Ellen shouted. "It's trying to communicate." The voice continued. "We are the Watchers. We have monitored your dimension since your species first split the atom. Now you must listen carefully. Your reality is in danger." Commander Blake stepped forward, positioning herself between the sphere and her colleagues. "Identify yourself properly and state your intentions." "There is little time," the voice replied. "The Void Hunters have detected your dimension. They feed on the energy of entire realities, consuming them to fuel their expansion. Your particle accelerators have drawn their attention. They are coming." Images flooded their minds. Vast ships that seemed to bend and twist space itself, creatures that defied the laws of physics, and entire universes being drained of energy until they collapsed into nothingness. "How do we fight them?" Susan asked, her military training taking over. "You already have the beginning of the knowledge you need," the voice replied. "Your understanding of quantum mechanics, your particle accelerators, your theories about dimensional barriers. These are the foundations of the weapons you must build." Alan's mind raced with possibilities. "The quantum fluctuation theories we've been working on, they could be adapted to." "Yes," the voice interrupted, "but you must work quickly. We can provide guidance, but we cannot fight this battle for you. Our own reality was consumed long ago. We exist now only as patterns of energy, watching and warning others." The sphere flickered, and the voice became fainter. "They are coming. Prepare yourselves. We will contact you again when we can." The sphere collapsed in on itself with a soft pop, leaving the room in silence. For a long moment, No one spoke. Commander Blake was the first to move. She pulled out her phone again, this time dialing a number she had hoped she would never need to use. "This is Commander Blake. Authorization code Echo 97 Delta. I need to speak to the Security Council immediately. Yes, all of them. We have a level 1 situation." She paused, looking at Alan. "Tell them humanity just got drafted into a war for reality itself." Over the next 72 hours, the world's power structure shifted dramatically. The Reality Defense Initiative, RDI, was formed with unprecedented speed and cooperation between nations. Dr. Alan Reeves found himself leading a team of the world's brightest scientists, working to turn theoretical physics into weapons of war. Dr. Peter Martinez's AI systems began processing the data from the encounter, looking for patterns and possibilities that human minds might miss. Commander Blake was promoted to oversee the military arm of the RDI, coordinating with armed forces worldwide to prepare for a threat unlike anything in human history. The Watchers made contact twice more in those first days, each time providing crucial information about the Void Hunter's weaknesses and the nature of dimensional warfare. Earth's particle accelerators were modified into early warning systems, creating a network that could detect dimensional intrusions anywhere on the planet. 10 days after the first contact, they detected the first attempt by the Void Hunters to breach their dimension. It was small, a probe rather than an invasion. But it proved that everything they had been told was true. The probe emerged over the South Pacific, where a hastily assembled fleet waited to meet it. The probe was a twisted thing that hurt the eyes to look at, its geometry seeming to shift and change with each passing second. But when the fleet's conventional weapons hit it, it proved to be surprisingly vulnerable. The Void Hunters had clearly not expected such rapid preparation and resistance. As Alan watched the footage of the probe's destruction in the RDI's new headquarters beneath the Swiss Alps, he felt a mix of pride and terror. Humanity had won its first battle against an interdimensional threat, but it was only the beginning. "They'll send something bigger next time," Commander Blake said, standing beside him. "Much bigger." Alan nodded, turning back to his equations and diagrams. On his screens, new weapon designs were taking shape. Devices that could tear holes in reality itself, ships that could sail through dimensions, and defenses that could protect not just Earth, but the very fabric of their universe. "Then we'll build something bigger too," he replied, his fingers moving across the keyboard with renewed purpose. "They thought they were hunting us, but they're about to learn something important about humanity." "What's that?" Susan asked, though she was already smiling. "We don't like being prey, and we're very, very good at adapting to fight back." As if in response to his words, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. On the main screen, multiple dimensional anomalies were appearing around the globe. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the universe why you should never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history learning how to fight and survive. The first chapter of Earth's greatest war wasn't going to be about its end, but about how humanity would rewrite the rules of reality itself to ensure its survival. The Void Hunters were about to learn why humans were the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. Chief Engineer Laura Winters hadn't slept in 36 hours, but she couldn't stop now. In the massive underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, her team was about to test the first weapon specifically designed to fight across dimensions. "Power levels are stable," she announced, her eyes fixed on the monitoring screens. "Reality anchor is holding at 98%. Admiral Christopher Grant stood behind her, his weathered face reflecting the blue glow of the displays. After 3 months of preparations, they were finally ready to move from defense to offense. "Begin the test sequence," he ordered. Laura nodded and pressed her palm against the biometric scanner. "Dr. Cole, is the AI ready?" Dr. Richard Cole looked up from his own station, where lines of code scrolled rapidly across multiple screens. "Diana is online and monitoring all systems. She'll shut everything down if anything goes wrong." The weapon they were testing looked deceptively simple, a sleek cannon about the size of a small car, mounted on a rotating platform. But its barrel wasn't designed to fire bullets or energy beams. It was built to punch holes in the fabric of reality itself. Starting power-up sequence, Laura announced. The cannon began to hum, and the air around its barrel started to shimmer. Phase 1 complete. Moving to Phase 2. In the testing chamber beyond the thick observation windows, reality began to ripple. The target, a thick steel plate, seemed to waver like a reflection in disturbed water. Phase 2 complete. Preparing for dimensional breach. Admiral Grant leaned forward slightly. This was the moment they had been working toward. If this test succeeded, they would have a way to fight back against the Void Hunters on their own terms. Fire, he commanded. Laura pressed the activation key. The cannon's hum rose to a piercing whine, and a beam of what looked like liquid light shot from its barrel. When it hit the steel plate, something impossible happened. Instead of making a hole, it made the plate simply cease to exist in their dimension. Target successfully shifted to dimensional plane beta, Diana's artificial voice announced. No structural damage to surrounding space-time detected. A cheer went up from the technical team, but Laura wasn't finished. Preparing for retrieval sequence, she adjusted several controls, and the cannon fired again. The steel plate reappeared, completely unchanged except for a faint blue glow that quickly faded. Test successful, Dr. Cole announced, grinning. We can now safely move objects between dimensions. Admiral Grant allowed himself a small smile. How soon can we scale this up to ship size? The U.S. Defiant is already being fitted with a larger version, Laura replied, finally letting herself feel the excitement of success. We should be ready for full ship trials within 2 weeks. Make it 1 week, the Admiral said. The Void Hunters aren't going to wait much longer. As if to prove his point, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Dr. Cole's screens filled with urgent data. Multiple dimensional breaches detected. They're bigger than anything we've seen before. Admiral Grant was already moving. Where? 3 major breaches, one over the Pacific, one over the Atlantic, and one over the Indian Ocean. Sir, they're bringing ships through. The main screen showed satellite images of massive objects emerging from tiers in space. The Void Hunter ships were dark shapes that seemed to absorb light, their surfaces constantly shifting and changing like oil on water. How long until the Defiant is ready for emergency launch? The Admiral demanded. Laura quickly calculated in her head. If we skip the safety protocols and run a bare minimum of tests, maybe 48 hours. You have 24. Dr. Cole, I need Diana integrated into the ship's systems immediately. They're not catching us unprepared this time. The next day was a blur of activity. The U.S. Defiant, humanity's first dimensional warfare ship, was rapidly completed in its underground dock. The ship looked unlike any naval vessel ever built. Its hull was covered in reality anchor arrays, and instead of conventional weapons, it carried dozens of the dimensional phase cannons they had just tested. Laura worked tirelessly alongside her team, making adjustments and improvements even as the final systems were being installed. Dr. Cole barely left his station, fine-tuning Diana's integration with the ship's systems. The AI would be crucial for navigating between dimensions and managing the complex weapons. 23 hours after the Void Hunters appeared, the U.S. Defiant was ready. As Laura stood in the ship's engine room, running final checks on the dimensional drive, she could hear the thunder of battles being fought on the surface. Conventional military forces were engaging the Void Hunters, buying time for humanity's secret weapon to be completed. All systems are green, she reported over the comm. The dimensional drive is as ready as it's going to be. Good work, Admiral Grant's voice replied. Report to the bridge. I want you up here for this. When Laura reached the bridge, she found it already staffed with a hand-picked crew. Dr. Cole sat at the AI interface station, while the Admiral stood in the center, studying tactical displays showing the battles raging around the world. The Void Hunters have been pushing our conventional forces back, he explained as Laura took her station. But they still don't know what we've built down here. Diana, begin launch sequence. The massive underground doors above the ship began to open, revealing a smooth tunnel leading up to the surface. The Defiant's engines hummed to life, but they weren't normal engines. They manipulated gravity itself, allowing the ship to rise smoothly into the air. We have multiple Void Hunter ships approaching our position, Diana announced. They appear to be curious about the energy signature we're generating. Admiral Grant's smile was grim. Let's show them what humanity has been working on. Power up the main weapons array. The dimensional phase cannons came online, their combined power making the air around the ship shimmer with potential. The Void Hunter ships grew larger in their view screens, their alien geometry still challenging to look at directly. They're charging weapons, Diana reported. Fire. Multiple beams of dimensional energy lashed out from the Defiant. Where they struck the Void Hunter ships, massive sections simply vanished, shifted into another dimension. The alien vessels, clearly not expecting such an attack, tried to retreat. Don't let them escape, the Admiral ordered. Push them back through their own breaches. Laura's hands flew over her controls, channeling more power to the weapons. The Defiant's attacks became more precise, targeting the Void Hunter's dimensional drives. One by one, the alien ships were either crippled or forced to flee back through their breach points. When the last enemy ship disappeared, a cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Admiral Grant quickly restored order. This was just one battle, he reminded them. But we've proven something important today. Humanity can fight back. And now we're going to take this fight to them. As the Defiant moved to engage Void Hunter forces in other parts of the world, Laura felt a mix of pride and anticipation. They had created weapons that could fight across dimensions, but this was just the beginning. In her tablet were designs for even more advanced systems, technologies that would let them not just fight the Void Hunters, but beat them at their own game. The arsenal of humanity was growing, and soon the Void Hunters would learn why it was a terrible mistake to threaten Earth. The species they had thought would be easy prey was about to become their worst nightmare. Captain Jennifer Howard stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as her crew prepared for their most daring mission yet. After 3 successful defensive battles, they were about to do something no human ship had ever attempted: travel through a dimensional breach into the Void Hunter's own territory. All systems are ready, Captain, Lieutenant John Phillips reported from his tactical station. The young officer's fingers hovered over the weapon controls, ready for action. Dr. Mills, how stable is the breach? Jennifer asked, turning to their dimensional physics specialist. Dr. Catherine Mills studied her readings carefully. The breach is holding steady. The Void Hunters don't know we can track their dimensional signatures yet. We should be able to follow them through before it closes. The bridge crew watched the main screen where a dimensional tear hung in the air, like a dark wound in reality. 10 minutes earlier, 3 Void Hunter ships had retreated through it after a failed attack on Earth's Pacific Defense Fleet. Diana, start the breach transition sequence, Jennifer ordered. The ship's eye immediately began the complex calculations needed for dimensional travel. Transition sequence initiated, Diana announced. All reality anchors at full power, dimensional shielding at maximum. Jennifer took a deep breath. Take us in. The Defiant moved forward, its advanced hull gleaming in the strange light of the dimensional breach. As they approached the tear, the ship's sensors began picking up readings from the other side. Multiple energy signatures detected, John reported. Looks like, by God, there must be hundreds of ships on the other side. Stay calm, Jennifer reminded her crew. Remember your training. Diana, engage stealth systems as soon as we transition. The ship entered the breach, and for a moment, reality seemed to twist inside out. Every crew member felt a strange sensation, as if their bodies were being stretched and compressed at the same time. Then, suddenly, they were through. The view that greeted them was beyond anything they had imagined. They emerged into a vast space that didn't follow the normal rules of physics. Massive structures that looked like cities floated in the void, connected by streams of energy that flowed like rivers through space. And everywhere, Void Hunter ships moved in complex patterns. "They've built an entire civilization in between dimensions," Dr. Mills whispered, her instruments trying to make sense of what they were seeing. "This is how they've been able to attack so many realities at once. And we just found their home base," Jennifer added. "John, start mapping everything you can. Dr. Mills, I want detailed readings of those energy streams. We're not leaving until we understand exactly what we're dealing with." The Defiant moved silently through the alien space, its stealth systems making it invisible to the Void Hunter sensors. They watched as massive ships, far larger than anything that had attacked Earth, docked at the floating cities to unload what looked like stolen energy from other dimensions. "Captain," Dr. Mills called out suddenly, her voice urgent, "I'm detecting something familiar in those energy containers. It's the same frequency as our universe's background radiation." Jennifer's blood ran cold. "They're storing the energy they've stolen from other versions of our reality." "That's not all," Dr. Mills continued. "Based on these readings, they're not just stealing energy. They're using it to power some kind of massive device, something that could tear apart entire dimensional clusters at once." Before Jennifer could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. "Stealth system failure imminent," Diana warned. "Unknown energy field is interfering with our cloaking technology. They're going to detect us any second," John reported, his hands moving quickly over his tactical console. "Should I power up weapons?" Jennifer made a split-second decision. "No, we've got what we came for. Diana, plot us a course back to the breach point. Maximum speed." The Defiant turned and accelerated just as its stealth systems failed completely. Almost immediately, the nearest Void Hunter ships began to react. "Multiple ships on intercept course," John called out. "They're charging weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," Jennifer ordered. "John, use the phase cannons only if you have to. We need to save power for the jump home." The ship dove and weaved through the strange space, avoiding energy beams that seemed to bend reality itself. John fired precise shots with the phase cannons, not to destroy but to create confusion, making parts of pursuing ships temporarily vanish into other dimensions. "The breach point is closing," Dr. Mills shouted. "We have maybe 2 minutes before it seals completely." Jennifer gripped her command chair as the ship shuddered under a near miss. "Diana, divert all available power to the engines. Everyone hold on." The Defiant surged forward, its dimensional drive pushing the limits of what human technology could achieve. Behind them, dozens of Void Hunter ships gave chase, their weapons filling space with deadly energy. "Breach point in sight," Diana announced. 30 seconds to closure. "They're trying to cut us off," John warned as more enemy ships appeared ahead of them. Jennifer allowed herself a small smile. "Just what I was hoping for. John, fire a full spread of phase charges, then switch to conventional weapons." The tactical officer understood immediately. The phase charges created a series of small dimensional pockets in front of the pursuing ships, disrupting their formation. As they tried to avoid these spatial traps, John fired traditional missiles, something the Void Hunters hadn't expected and hadn't shielded against. The resulting chaos gave the Defiant the opening it needed. The ship shot through the closing breach with seconds to spare, emerging back into normal space just as the dimensional tear sealed behind them. "All hands, report," Jennifer called out as reality stabilized around them. "Minor damage to the outer hull," John reported. "All weapons systems still operational. Dimensional drive is stressed but functional," Dr. Mills added. "And Captain, we got everything. Full scans of their base, their fleet movements, and most importantly, their energy collection systems." Jennifer nodded, already thinking about what this meant for the war. "Send everything to command immediately. They need to know what we're really up against and that we found a way to hurt them where they live. As the Defiant headed back to base, Jennifer knew that what they had discovered would change the course of the war. The Void Hunters were no longer mysterious enemies striking from unknown dimensions. Now humanity knew where they lived, how they operated, and most importantly, what they were planning. "Dr. Mills," she said as they approached Earth, "start working on a way to disrupt those energy streams we saw. If they want to steal power from other dimensions, let's show them why they should have picked someone else's reality to mess with." The crew of the Defiant had just written a new chapter in human history, the day humanity took the fight to the enemy's home turf and proved that even in dimensions beyond normal space, Earth's defenders would not back down. Ambassador Daniel Wright had never imagined he would be hosting a meeting quite like this. The conference room deep within the Rocky Mountains facility was filled with beings from 7 different dimensions, all brought together by humanity's successful strike against the Void Hunters. "The data from the U.S. Defiance mission changes everything," he said, standing at the head of the table. "We now know the full extent of the Void Hunters' operations, and we have a plan to stop them." Commander Michelle Hayes stepped forward, activating a holographic display in the center of the room. The image showed the strange space between dimensions where the Void Hunters had built their base. "As you can see," she said, "they've created a network of energy collection points. Each point drains power from a different reality. But thanks to our technology, we can now track these drainage points and, more importantly, disrupt them." The assembled aliens, some humanoid, others completely different from any Earth life form, studied the display with intense interest. A tall, crystalline being that called itself a light weaver spoke in a voice that seemed to shimmer in the air. "Your species has accomplished in months what others have failed to do in centuries," it said. "We offer our full support to your efforts." Lieutenant Andrew Parker, who had been quietly analyzing data at his station, looked up. "Our intelligence suggests the Void Hunters are gathering energy for something big, something that could destroy entire clusters of realities at once." The room grew silent at this news. A beam made of what looked like living smoke moved forward, its form swirling with concern. "We have seen such weapons before," it said in a voice that echoed strangely. "They used one to destroy our primary reality. We exist now only in our backup dimensions." Ambassador Wright nodded grimly. "Which is why we need to act now, together. Earth has developed weapons that can fight the Void Hunters effectively. We're willing to share this technology with all of you." The offer sent a ripple of excitement through the gathered beings. Earth's dimensional phase cannons and reality anchors had proven far more effective than anything other species had developed. Commander Hayes brought up another display, showing the designs for Earth's latest weapons. "We've already begun producing these in quantity. With your help, we can arm ships from every allied dimension." "There's more," Lieutenant Parker added. "We've discovered something in the ancient records that the Watchers provided. The Void Hunters aren't as invincible as they want us to think. Their interdimensional technology has a critical weakness." He brought up a new set of diagrams. "Their power collection system works like a web. If we can overload key points in the network, it could cause a cascade failure through their entire civilization." One of the aliens, a being that looked like a floating collection of geometric shapes, moved in what might have been excitement. "Your weapons could do this." "Not alone," Commander Hayes admitted, "but combined with the unique abilities of each of your species, we think we can make it work." Ambassador Wright took control of the meeting again. "What we're proposing is unprecedented. A coalition of forces from multiple dimensions, using Earth's weapons combined with your various technologies and abilities. A united front against an enemy that has threatened us all." The discussions continued for hours. Each species had its own unique contributions to offer. The Light Weavers could manipulate energy in ways that humans had never imagined. The Smoke Beings could move through dimensional barriers without need for technology. The Geometric Aliens could process vast amounts of data instantly. As the meeting progressed, Lieutenant Parker kept updating their battle plans, incorporating each new capability into an increasingly complex strategy. Commander Hayes worked with the military representatives from each species, coordinating how their forces would work together. "There's something else you should know," Ambassador Wright said near the end of the meeting. "We've detected signs that the Void Hunters are accelerating their plans. They know we found their weakness, and they're moving to complete their weapon before we can stop them. The geometric being pulsed with colored lights. How long do we have?" Commander Hayes consulted her data. "Based on our calculations, 2 weeks at most. Then we must move quickly," the Light Weaver declared. "Our forces are ready to begin training with your weapons immediately." Over the next few days, ships from multiple dimensions began arriving in secret locations around Earth. The sight of alien vessels learning to use human technology would have seemed impossible just months ago. Now it was humanity's best hope for survival. In orbit, the U.S. Defiant led training exercises, teaching alien crews how to use phase cannons and reality anchors effectively. Commander Hayes oversaw the operation personally, working to overcome the challenges of coordinating forces that sometimes operated according to completely different laws of physics. Lieutenant Parker's intelligence team worked around the clock, combining data from all their allies to build a complete picture of the Void Hunters' defenses. Each allied species had pieces of the puzzle. Now they were finally putting them all together. Ambassador Wright found himself working longer hours than he'd ever worked before, smoothing over diplomatic issues between species that had never interacted before Earth brought them together. But despite the challenges, progress was being made faster than anyone had expected. "It's remarkable," Commander Hayes said one evening as they watched alien crews practicing complex maneuvers with their newly equipped ships. "A few months ago, we didn't even know other dimensions existed. Now we're leading a coalition to save all of reality." Ambassador Wright smiled. "That's the thing about humans. When our backs are against the wall, we don't just fight back. We find ways to win that nobody else would have thought possible. And we make friends in the most unexpected places," Lieutenant Parker added, gesturing to their alien allies. As they watched, a fleet of ships from 7 different dimensions moved in perfect formation, their weapons synchronized in ways that would have seemed impossible weeks ago. Earth's technology, combined with the unique abilities of their allies, was creating something entirely new, a force capable of fighting back against an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. The coalition was ready. Now it was time to take the fight to the Void Hunters, not just as humans defending Earth, but as part of something bigger, a united force fighting to protect all of reality itself. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the flagship Earth Force One, watching as the largest fleet ever assembled prepared for battle. Ships from 7 different dimensions floated in formation around her vessel, their hulls gleaming with newly installed human technology. "All battle groups report ready," Major Benjamin Carter announced from his tactical station. The strike team leader had spent weeks training crews from different dimensions to work together. Now it was time to put that training to the test. "Dr. Foster, are the navigation calculations complete?" Sarah asked, turning to her quantum navigation specialist. Dr. Elizabeth Foster nodded, her fingers moving across her holographic displays. "Yes, Admiral. I've mapped out safe paths through dimensional space for all our ships. The Light Weavers have confirmed my calculations." The plan they were about to execute was the most ambitious in human history. They would attack the Void Hunters' base from multiple dimensions at once, using their own energy collection network against them. "Send the go signal to all ships," Sarah ordered. "Begin Operation Reality Shatter." Across the fleet, dimensional drives powered up. The sight was incredible. Hundreds of ships from different realities, all using Earth's technology combined with their own unique abilities. The Light Weavers' crystalline vessels glowed with stored energy. The smoke beings' shadow ships rippled like dark clouds. The geometric aliens' cubic vessels pulsed with complex patterns. "First wave, prepare for dimensional jump," Sarah announced over the fleet-wide channel. "Remember your training. Hit your targets and get out fast. Don't let them trap you between dimensions." The first wave of ships vanished in flashes of light, jumping to different points around the Void Hunters' network. Major Carter's screens lit up with tactical data as the attacks began. First wave reporting successful breaches, he called out. They're hitting the energy collection points now. On the main display, they could see the Void Hunters' reaction. Enemy ships poured out of dimensional rifts, rushing to defend their network. But this time, they faced something they had never encountered before. A coordinated attack from multiple species using technology they didn't understand. Second wave. Launch. Sarah commanded. More ships jumped away, targeting different points in the network. The Light Weavers led this wave, their vessels channeling massive amounts of energy into the Void Hunters' collection points, overloading them. Dr. Foster monitored the dimensional stress readings carefully. The network is starting to destabilize. The smoke beings are successfully disrupting their power flow. The Void Hunters fought back hard. Their ships fired weapons that bent space itself, trying to trap the Allied vessels in pocket dimensions. But humanity had planned for this. Release the phase mines, Sarah ordered. Major Carter activated a special weapon system designed by Earth's engineers. Thousands of small devices appeared in space around the Allied fleet. When the Void Hunters tried to create dimensional traps, the mines detonated, creating a web of stable space that their ships couldn't distort. Their main battle fleet is moving to engage, Major Carter reported. At least 300 ships, including types we've never seen before. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Right where we want them. Signal the geometric aliens. Begin attack pattern Delta. The cubic ships of their geometric allies moved into position, their incredible processing power allowing them to predict exactly where the Void Hunters would appear. As the enemy fleet emerged from dimensional rifts, they found themselves caught in a deadly crossfire. Main gun crews, target their flagship, Sarah commanded. Earth Force One's massive phase cannons powered up, their energy making the air shimmer even inside the ship. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human history. Ships fought across multiple dimensions at once. The Light Weavers turned enemy energy weapons back on their users. Smoke being vessels phased through solid matter to attack from impossible angles. Human phase cannons made entire sections of Void Hunter ships cease to exist. Admiral, Dr. Foster called out suddenly. I'm detecting a massive energy spike. They're trying to activate their reality-destroying weapon early. Sarah had expected this. Signal all ships. Begin final phase. Major Carter, prepare to transmit the override codes. This was the riskiest part of their plan. For weeks, the geometric aliens had been analyzing the Void Hunter's weapon, looking for weaknesses. They had found one. A flaw in the dimensional mathematics that the enemy used to control their technology. Transmitting codes now, Major Carter announced. Around the fleet, geometric alien vessels began broadcasting complex mathematical formulas directly into the fabric of space-time. The effect was immediate. The Void Hunters' energy network began to flicker and fail. Their ships started losing power, their dimensional drives unable to function properly. It's working, Dr. Foster reported excitedly. The network is collapsing. Their weapon is powering down. But Sarah knew the Void Hunters had one last card to play. All ships, brace for impact. The enemy flagship, a massive vessel that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once, made one final desperate move. It tried to overload its own dimensional drive, attempting to tear a hole in reality large enough to swallow the entire Allied fleet. Not this time, Sarah muttered. Major Carter, activate the reality anchor array. Every human ship in the fleet activated their reality anchors simultaneously, creating a bubble of stable space around them. The Void Hunters' attempt to destroy space-time itself crashed against this barrier and rebounded, tearing their own ships apart instead. Enemy flagship is breaking up, Major Carter reported. The rest of their fleet is in full retreat. Don't let them escape, Sarah ordered. We end this now. The Allied fleet pressed their advantage, pursuing the retreating Void Hunters back to their base dimension. The sight that greeted them was incredible. The massive structures that had housed the enemy civilization were collapsing as their power network failed. All ships, target their main power core, Sarah commanded. Fire everything we have. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. Phase cannons, energy beams, dimensional disruptors, and technologies that had no names in human language. The combined attack struck the core of the Void Hunter's base, and reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a flash of light that seemed to reach across all dimensions at once, the enemy's base began to collapse in on itself. The Void Hunter's mighty civilization, built on stolen energy from countless realities, was finally falling. All ships, retreat to safe distance, Sarah ordered. They watched as the collapse continued, the Void Hunter's base dimension sealing itself off from the rest of reality. As the Allied fleet regrouped, Sarah looked around her bridge. Her crew was tired but proud. They had just helped end a threat to all of existence. "Send word to Earth," she said quietly. "Tell them the Void Hunters are finished. Reality itself is safe again." The battle was over, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven itself not just to Earth, but to beings across multiple dimensions. They had led the fight against an enemy that had seemed unstoppable, and they had won. The age of Earth as a single-dimension civilization was over. A new era was beginning, one where humanity would help guard the very fabric of reality itself. General Kevin Matthews stood at the window of the new International Dimensional Command Center, watching ships from dozens of different realities dock at the massive space station orbiting Earth. 6 months had passed since the defeat of the Void Hunters, and the universe, or rather, the multiverse, had changed forever. "The latest scans are complete," Dr. Rebecca Turner announced, walking into his office with a stack of holographic reports. "The dimensional barriers are fully stable. No signs of any remaining Void Hunter activity." Kevin nodded, turning from the window. "And the new defense network? Operating perfectly. Captain Paul Anderson just finished installing the last reality anchor station in Dimension 7. We can now detect and respond to any dimensional intrusion within minutes." The general smiled, remembering how far they had come. What had started as a desperate fight for survival had turned into something much bigger. Earth was now the center of a vast network of allied dimensions, all working together to protect the fabric of reality itself. "Any word from our scouts in the sealed dimension?" he asked, referring to the space where the Void Hunter's civilization had once existed. Rebecca brought up a detailed scan. "The barrier is holding. Whatever Void Hunters survive the collapse are trapped inside. They won't be threatening anyone else's reality ever again." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime. A holographic display appeared, showing a message from one of their Lightweaver allies. "General Matthews." The crystalline being's voice shimmered through the air. "The Council of Realities is ready to begin. Will you represent Earth at the ceremony?" "I'll be there shortly," Kevin replied. He turned to Rebecca. "Care to join me? You should see what your research helped create." Together, they made their way through the space station to the grand chamber that had been specially designed to accommodate beings from all allied dimensions. The room was filled with representatives from every species that had fought alongside Earth against the Void Hunters. Captain Paul Anderson met them at the entrance. "Quite a crowd," he said, gesturing to the assembled beings. "Hard to believe that 6 months ago, most of us didn't even know other dimensions existed." The ceremony that followed was unlike anything in human history. One by one, representatives from each allied dimension stepped forward to sign the Treaty of Reality, a document that officially established the Multidimensional Defense Coalition, with Earth at its heart. "We gather here," the Lightweaver speaker announced, "to recognize not just a victory, but a new beginning. The species of Earth, in their darkest hour, did not simply defend themselves. They united us all, shared their technology freely, and led us to a victory that many thought impossible." Kevin listened as the speaker continued, remembering the battles that had brought them here. The first contact with the Watchers, the development of the phase cannons, the desperate fights against the Void Hunters, and finally, the great victory that had saved all of reality. And now, the speaker concluded, we take the next step together. The humans have shown us a better way, not to fight alone, but to stand united across all dimensions. Rebecca leaned close to whisper to Kevin, "Did you ever imagine, when all this started, that we'd end up here?" He shook his head. "To be honest, I was just hoping we'd survive. This," he gestured to the assembled alien representatives, "this is beyond anything we could have dreamed." After the ceremony, Kevin found himself in a meeting with the newly formed Defense Council. Representatives from each allied dimension gathered around a table that seemed to exist in multiple realities at once, another gift from their geometric alien allies. "The Dimensional Defense Network is only the beginning," Captain Anderson explained, showing plans for new joint projects. "We're already adapting our phase cannon technology to create stable transportation links between friendly dimensions. Trade, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. The possibilities are endless." "And what of the Watchers?" a smoke being asked. "Have they made contact since the victory?" "Just once," Kevin replied. "They said their work was done. They'll continue to watch, but they trust us to guard reality now. All of us, together." The meeting continued late into the night as the Allies discussed plans for their shared future. Earth's technology, combined with the unique abilities of each species, was opening up possibilities that no one had ever imagined before. In the station's observation deck, Rebecca worked with a team of scientists from multiple dimensions, studying the after-effects of the reality shatter operation. The defeat of the Void Hunters had changed the very nature of dimensional physics, and they were still discovering new phenomena. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a series of readings. "The barriers between friendly dimensions are naturally growing more stable. It's like reality itself is adapting to support our alliance." Paul studied the data with interest. "Could we use this to improve the defense network?" "Already working on it," she replied with a smile. "Give me a few more weeks with our geometric alien friends, and we might be able to create permanent safe passages between allied dimensions." As the Earth's sun set, visible through the station's massive windows, Kevin stood again at his office window. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved through space around the station. Human vessels with their reality anchors, light weaver ships glowing like stars, geometric alien cubes processing vast amounts of data, and smoke-being ships that seemed to fade in and out of existence. A message appeared on his desk, showing the latest reports from Earth. The public was still adapting to their new role in the multiverse, but the excitement was overwhelming. Already, volunteers were lining up to join the new Dimensional Defense Force, eager to help protect not just Earth, but all of reality. "General," Rebecca called from the doorway, "the first group of exchange students is ready to begin training. We have humans preparing to study in other dimensions, and beings from every allied reality wanting to learn at Earth's universities." Kevin nodded, feeling a sense of pride. Who would have thought? We went from fighting for survival to teaching dimensional physics to beings from across reality. "That's what humans do best," Paul added, joining them. "We adapt, we learn, and we help others do the same." As night fell over Earth, visible from the station's windows, lights could be seen spreading across the planet's surface. But now they weren't just city lights. They were the glows of dimensional ports, research facilities, and training centers. Earth had become more than just humanity's home. It was now the heart of something much bigger. A coalition of realities working together to ensure that no threat like the Void Hunters would ever rise again. The story of Earth's Dimension-Shattering battle group had indeed rewritten reality. But more than that, it had written a new chapter in the history of existence itself, one where the beings of countless dimensions stood together, united by the courage and innovation of a species that had refused to accept defeat. And somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of the multiverse, the Watchers observed it all, knowing they had chosen well when they decided to warn Earth about the coming threat. Humanity had not just survived. They had changed the very nature of reality for the better.